The moment Eliza Winters stepped onto Daniel Foster's dock, she knew she was about to destroy his life. "Tonight, you're mine to ruin," she whispered, her voice carrying across the still lake water. Daniel froze, recognition dawning in his eyes as he realized this wasn't just his attractive 47-year-old neighbor making a pass. This was the woman who testified against his brother 15 years ago, sending him to prison for a crime he didn't commit. And now she was here, at his sanctuary, with his 8-year-old daughter sleeping just inside the cabin. Daniel's hands trembled as he set down his coffee mug. Everything he'd rebuilt since his wife's death 3 years ago, the peaceful lake house retreat, the stable environment for Sophie, the small business he ran from home, all of it could crumble if Eliza revealed why she'd really moved next door 6 months ago. But the most terrifying question burned in his mind. Why would she announce her intentions instead of simply acting on them? "I know what you're thinking," Eliza said, stepping closer, moonlight illuminating her fair skin and long blonde hair. "Why tell you my plans? Because ruining you isn't as simple as exposing secrets, Daniel. It's about making you understand what your family took from me first." She reached into her purse and pulled out a weathered photograph that made Daniel's blood run cold. A picture he'd never seen before that changed everything he thought he knew about his brother's case. Daniel stared at the photograph, his mind racing. The evidence that could exonerate his brother had been in Eliza's possession all this time. "Why now?" he demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. "After 15 years, why come forward with this?" Eliza's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Because I finally found you. And because I made a terrible mistake." Her confession hung in the night air between them, creating more questions than answers. The tension between them was palpable as Daniel invited her inside, away from the chill of the night air. Sophie was sound asleep upstairs, unaware that her world might soon be upended. As they sat across from each other at his kitchen table, Daniel studied Eliza's face, the face that had haunted his brother's nightmares for years. Yet there was something vulnerable in her expression now, something that didn't align with the vengeful woman who had appeared on his dock moments ago. "I testified against your brother because I truly believed he was guilty," Eliza explained, her fingers tracing the edge of the photograph. "The police showed me evidence, coached my testimony. I was young, scared, and grieving my sister's death. They gave me someone to blame, and I took it." Daniel's jaw tightened. "My brother lost 15 years of his life because of you. And my sister lost her entire life," Eliza countered, her voice breaking. "I thought finding you, hurting you, would somehow balance the scales. But seeing you with your daughter these past months, watching how you've created this beautiful life despite your own losses." She shook her head. "I realized I couldn't go through with it." "So what changed?" Daniel asked, still wary of her true intentions. "Why come clean now?" Eliza's answer was interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. Daniel's heart stopped when he opened it to find Sheriff Calloway standing on his porch, his expression grim. "Daniel Foster? I need to speak with you about your brother. He's escaped custody during transfer and we have reason to believe he's heading here." The revelation hit Daniel like a physical blow. His brother, free but fugitive, coming here, where Eliza was, where Sophie slept peacefully upstairs. The collision of past and present was about to become catastrophic. After the sheriff left with a promise to patrol the area, Daniel turned to Eliza, fury and fear battling for dominance. "You need to leave. Now." "I can't," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Your brother doesn't know the truth yet. If he finds me here, thinking I deliberately lied to put him away." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, the weight of responsibility crushing him. "Sophie is all I have. I can't put her in danger." "Then let me help you protect her," Eliza offered, surprising them both. "This is my mess too. Let me help fix it." Their eyes locked across the room, years of pain and mistrust between them, yet something else flickering to life, a reluctant alliance born of necessity, and perhaps something more complicated neither was ready to acknowledge. As dawn broke over the lake, Daniel and Eliza had formed an uneasy plan. Sophie would stay with Daniel's in-laws in town while they confronted his brother with the truth. But as Daniel carried his sleeping daughter to the car, headlights appeared on the gravel driveway, and a familiar silhouette emerged from the vehicle. "Daniel," his brother called out, his voice rougher than Daniel remembered. "Long time no see." Time seemed to stop as the brothers faced each other for the first time in 15 years. Behind Daniel, Eliza stepped onto the porch, and the air crackled with dangerous tension as his brother's gaze shifted to her, recognition and rage darkening his features. "You," he growled, reaching into his jacket pocket. "You're the reason I lost everything." What happened next would haunt Daniel's dreams for years to come. His brother pulled not a weapon from his pocket, but a crumpled newspaper clipping, the obituary of Eliza's sister. "I've carried this every day since they convicted me," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't kill her, but I've mourned her like I did." Eliza's composure cracked, tears streaming down her face as she stepped forward. "I know that now," she whispered. "And I have proof of who did." The three of them retreated inside as Sophie continued sleeping in the car, unaware of the life-altering conversation taking place. Eliza revealed what she'd discovered 6 months ago. Evidence that the real killer was the town's former deputy, now chief of police in a neighboring county. The same man who had coached her testimony and planted evidence against Daniel's brother. "Why didn't you go to the authorities?" Daniel's brother demanded, his hands shaking with suppressed emotion. "Because he threatened my life when I confronted him," Eliza admitted. "That's when I found Daniel, thinking your family was part of the cover-up. I was wrong." As morning light spilled across the lake, illuminating the three figures huddled around the kitchen table, they formed an unlikely alliance. Daniel's brother, still legally a fugitive, Eliza, the witness who'd helped convict an innocent man, and Daniel, caught between his duty to protect his daughter and his loyalty to his brother. "We need to clear your name properly," Daniel insisted. "Running will only make things worse." His brother laughed bitterly. "Easy for you to say. You haven't spent 15 years in a cell." "No," Daniel countered, "I've spent them raising a daughter alone after my wife died, believing my brother was guilty of murder. We've all lost something here." The tension in the room was broken by the sound of tires on gravel. Through the window, they saw Sheriff Calloway's patrol car pulling up. But he wasn't alone, the former deputy, now police chief, was with him. "They found me," Daniel's brother whispered, panic rising in his voice. Eliza's hand closed around the evidence folder. "They found all of us," she corrected, her voice steadier than it had any right to be. "And now they'll face what they've done." What followed was a confrontation 15 years in the making. As the officers approached the house, Daniel made a split-second decision, ushering Eliza and his brother out the back door toward the boathouse while he went to stall them. But as he stepped onto the porch, he saw Sophie, awake and confused, climbing out of the car. His heart stopped as the corrupt chief spotted his daughter at the same moment. With a casual gesture that chilled Daniel to his core, the man placed his hand on his weapon. The message was clear: cooperate or else. "Sophie, honey, go back in the car," Daniel called out, trying to keep his voice light despite the terror gripping him. "But Daddy, I'm hungry," she protested, oblivious to the danger. Sheriff Calloway looked between Daniel and his colleague, suspicion dawning on his face. "Chief Mercer, why don't you check the perimeter while I talk to Mr. Foster?" The moment Calloway and Mercer separated was the moment everything changed. From the boathouse, Daniel's brother had been watching, and he made his move, not toward escape, but toward Sophie, pulling her safely behind a tree as Mercer drew his weapon. "Sheriff!" Daniel shouted, pointing toward Mercer. "He's the one who framed my brother. Eliza has proof." Chaos erupted as Mercer fired a shot that splintered the porch railing beside Daniel. Sheriff Calloway drew his own weapon, but hesitated, unsure who to believe. In that moment of confusion, Eliza emerged from the boathouse, evidence folder held high. "Sheriff, I was coerced into false testimony," she called out. "These documents prove Chief Mercer killed my sister and framed an innocent man." The standoff that followed seemed to last an eternity, with Sophie crying behind the tree, Daniel frozen on the porch, and two armed officers facing off against each other while Eliza and Daniel's brother waited to see which way justice would fall. When the second shot rang out, it came from Sheriff Calloway's gun, striking Mercer in the shoulder as he attempted to aim at Eliza. The corrupt chief fell to his knees, his weapon clattering to the ground as Calloway kicked it away and handcuffed him. "I've suspected something wasn't right with your brother's case for years," Calloway admitted to Daniel as paramedics loaded Mercer into an ambulance hours later. "But I never had proof until now." As the morning stretched into afternoon, statements were taken, evidence was logged, and promises of a full investigation were made. Daniel's brother, no longer a fugitive but a victim of injustice, sat on the dock with Sophie, teaching her how to bait a fishing hook as if he'd been part of her life all along. Daniel found Eliza standing at the edge of the property, watching the scene with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. "You're leaving," he said. It wasn't a question. She nodded, her blonde hair catching the sunlight. "I've done what I came to do. Your brother will be exonerated. My sister will finally have justice." "And us?" Daniel asked, surprising himself with the question. "What about what's happened between us?" Eliza looked at him, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time. "There is no us, Daniel. I came here to ruin you, remember? But you didn't," he pointed out. "You saved us instead." A smile touched her lips, sad but genuine. "Maybe in another life, where we met under different circumstances." Daniel took a step closer. "Or maybe in this life, where we start over. Not as enemies or allies, but as two people who've seen the worst in each other and still found something worth saving." "Your daughter," Eliza began, "needs people in her life who understand that mistakes don't define you," Daniel finished. "People like you." As the sun began to set over the lake, casting long shadows across the water, Eliza made a decision. She wouldn't stay, not yet, there were still wounds too fresh, trust too fragile. But she wouldn't disappear either. "I'm renting the Miller place through the summer," she said. "That gives us time to figure out if there's something here worth exploring." Daniel nodded, understanding the gift she was offering, not promises, but possibility. "Tonight," he said, echoing her words from the previous evening, "you're mine to know, not to ruin." As summer bloomed around the lake house, so too did something unexpected between Daniel and Eliza. It began with coffee on adjacent docks, conversations that stretched from sunrise to sunset, and Sophie's delighted discovery that Eliza could braid hair into intricate patterns her father could never master. Daniel's brother, officially exonerated and compensated for his wrongful imprisonment, bought a small cabin across the lake, close enough for family dinners but far enough for independence as he rebuilt his life. The four of them formed an unconventional family, bound not by blood but by shared trauma transformed into shared healing. "I never thought I'd find peace here," Eliza admitted to Daniel one evening as they watched Sophie and his brother skipping stones across the water. "I came looking for vengeance and found forgiveness instead." Daniel's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Sometimes the things that threaten to ruin us end up saving us instead." As the summer drew to a close, Eliza's rental agreement ended, presenting a crossroads neither had been ready to face. The night before she was set to leave, they sat on the dock where their story had begun, the same moon reflecting on the same water, but everything else transformed. "Stay," Daniel said simply. "Not in the rental. Here, with us." Eliza looked at him, this man who had every reason to hate her but had chosen understanding instead. "Are you sure? After everything?" "Because of everything," he corrected. We've seen each other at our worst and chosen to find the best. That's rarer than you think. As stars appeared in the darkening sky, Eliza made her choice. Not out of guilt or obligation, but because sometimes life offers second chances disguised as catastrophes. Sometimes the person who threatens to ruin you becomes the one who helps you rebuild. Tonight, she whispered, leaning in to kiss him for the first time, I'm yours. Not to ruin, but to love. And in that moment, on a dock that had witnessed both threats and promises, they began writing a new story, one where past mistakes didn't dictate future possibilities, where forgiveness wasn't just spoken but lived, and where love grew not despite difficult beginnings, but because of the strength those challenges revealed. 1 year later, as autumn painted the lake in fiery hues of orange and gold, Daniel stood nervously on the same dock where Eliza had first threatened to ruin him. The water lapped gently against the wooden posts as he adjusted his tie for the 5th time, watching as guests filled the chairs arranged on the lawn. His brother gave him a reassuring nod from where he stood as best man, while Sophie bounced excitedly in her flower girl dress, scattering practice petals that drifted into the water. You know she can see you from the bedroom window, his brother teased, approaching the dock. Pretty sure it's bad luck. Daniel smiled, his eyes drawn to the upstairs window of the lake house where he caught a glimpse of blonde hair quickly disappearing behind a curtain. After everything we've been through, I think we've had enough bad luck to last a lifetime. The transformation of the property mirrored their journey. What was once a single man's retreat was now unmistakably a family home. Eliza's paintings hung on walls once bare, Sophie's height marks tracked her growth in the kitchen doorway, and photographs chronicled their evolving story, fishing trips with his brother, Sophie's school play, and the day Eliza officially adopted Sophie 3 months ago, making legal what their hearts had known for months. As guests settled and music began to play, Daniel took his position at the makeshift altar overlooking the lake. When Eliza appeared at the end of the aisle on Sheriff Calloway's arm, the man who had helped clear his brother's name now honored with giving away the bride, Daniel felt his breath catch. She wore not white but a dress the color of sunrise, her fair skin glowing and blonde hair adorned with wildflowers Sophie had helped gather that morning. As she approached, her eyes never leaving his, Daniel was struck by the extraordinary journey that had brought them here. From, tonight, you're mine to ruin, to, today, you're mine forever. When she reached him, before the minister could speak, Eliza pressed something into Daniel's palm, the weathered photograph she had brought that first night, now framed alongside a new image of the 4 of them at the lake. From endings to beginnings, she whispered, her voice carrying only to him. Thank you for showing me that our worst moments don't have to define us. As they exchanged vows with the lake as their witness, Daniel realized that sometimes life's most beautiful chapters begin with what we think will destroy us. Their story, born from tragedy and mistrust, had transformed into something neither could have imagined that moonlit night when a neighbor arrived with destruction in mind and instead found her way home.